whiskey reviews are broken. Because it turns out people love whiskey for different reasons. Who would have thunk? Rule one, right? One of the very specific ways that whiskey reviews are broken. Most places giving whiskey reviews, they take so much time. But for a lot of people, you're standing in that liquor store aisle, you're seeing a bottle, you're reading the label, it sounds interesting, and you just want the most relevant information as quickly as possible. That's what we're going to do right now. And I want to bring you into that process of putting together that tightened format of a review, because ultimately these reviews are for you guys. So first things first, I think we're going to move here. Hello. And if we're talking about speed, doing reviews that are going to be the vertical format, and especially like fast content, vertical video, shorts type of content, you got to grab people, you got to get their attention with something. It's the game, man. I mean, it is what it is. I'm thinking we probably want to do, so the shot opens up, it's vertical videos, right? Every time I slide a bottle, let's have you grab the bottle out of the way, okay? So get down there, you're gonna grab it out of the way because I'm gonna slide these pretty quick. All right, ready?
I'm gonna remind you that spice tree isn't made anymore.
Yeah, that's fine. This is the bottle that we're jumping into. So we have their attention. Very often, one of the reasons why these whiskey reviews go for a very long time is because they feel like they have to verbalize all of this stuff, the mash bill and facts about the distillery. And look, this is coming from somebody who, for years, there's thousands of whiskey reviews on YouTube that I was sampling and analyzing whiskey, and those episodes are about 10 to 15 minutes long. Now, that content was less about expediting the process and transferring as much practical information and insight as possible. It was more about just the vibe. Frankly, if you can really easily Google something, or if you're on like the buy page of a whiskey and the specs are right there, I do think it's a waste of time to verbalize it, especially if you can just put that information, if you can just pop it on the screen. Just right there on the screen, boom, boom, boom. But for videos like this, for people that are just looking for that insight, that practical guidance, I'm gonna be saying stuff like smooth, because you gotta meet people where they're at. Even if you don't think it's legitimate, it's fine. That piece of this video content wouldn't necessarily be for you. And we're saying it's the smoothest gateway scotch, which arguably this is. For years, we've not said smooth because it's used so often that it doesn't really mean anything. So we usually say something like soft. The Glenlivet's also smooth. Glenfiddich is also smooth, but in terms of smooth, that also has some oomph and some presence. I'm reaching for the Glenmorangie. Another thing that isn't really done well in most whiskey reviews beyond just the time, labels are notorious for having little teeny tiny font size and text and details that it's hard to see. Part of this expedited review format, I think, needs to be a close-up first-person perspective of the bottle, so you can pinpoint specific things that people should probably be noticing whenever they have this bottle in their hand at their liquor store and they're considering whether or not this is going to be a good fit for them. This camera, main camera, and this camera. There we go. Beautiful. When we go here, we should be, oh yeah, we can get nice and close up and tight. We can zoom in. The original smooth, creamy, luscious with notes of orange, honey, vanilla, and peach. Half of those notes you're going to see on most whiskey labels. But this has orange, which I do think there is that citrus profile that's in there. 10 years old, aged in bourbon cask is probably an element that I want to have in this finished video. I think it's worth the time. And then if we're looking at the top, Bill Lumsden, he's the master distiller. He also collabed with Beyonce and her release. We also need to keep in mind the core things that people want to know. They're trying to figure out whether or not they should spend money on this. They haven't had it before, and they're trying to get opinions from people that seem like they're going to have a credible opinion to see whether or not they like it. So I do think another element we should add into these quick reviews, I've always maintained that a single person's opinion, if you don't have the same kind of palate they do, then it's going to be very limited utility for your own purchasing decisions. So one of the things that we can do for these short format whiskey reviews is before we shoot the review, we do a crowdsourced score or rating in like the YouTube community tab. And then we have enough people weigh in, then you can get a snapshot of what do a large number of whiskey lovers think about that particular whiskey. The best whiskey is the whiskey you like to drink the way you like to drink it. So flavors and enjoyment and profiles, a lot of that is subjective. There's going to be limited usefulness of a person just saying the flavors that they're experiencing. For now, I think just a flavor cloud, a collective cloud of flavors that are commonly found in a whiskey, that would be very helpful. You magnificent bastards, you want to be getting a better night's sleep.
Oh, sorry, I definitely feel it.
This episode is sponsored by Helix.
Felix!
Just having fun. Premium mattresses, customized to fit your needs, conveniently shipped to your door. You want to be sleeping well because it impacts so many parts of your life.
Everything in your life.
Like your attitude, your relationships, and your energy level, like all of these things, your ability to focus. Your life is better if you have good sleep. If you're going to get good sleep, you have to have the mattress that's going to be the right fit for you.
One that you can customize to fit your exact sleeping needs.
Right, you're going to do that with a sleep quiz. And that sleep quiz is going to ask you a variety of questions like, are you a back sleeper or side sleep?
Sorry about that.
It's not going to ask you that.
Are you a butt in the air sleeper, one leg off, one leg in sleeper?
Based on your sleep preferences, it's going to give you some recommendations, things that are going to fit what you need to get an excellent night's sleep. And
Wait, there's also a 100-night sleep trial.
they have
A 10-year warranty!
That's like a 5th grader.
But also, they're going to have a variety of financing options so you can get the right mattress that not only fits your sleep needs, but also your budget. Now, whenever this mattress shows up to your home, it's going to be in an impossibly small box. You're going to bring the box in, you're going to open it up.
It starts to grow kind of like this. Like that. And then you have a bed.
This got away from me.
We're professionals.
Did we mention President's Day in there?
It's a President's Day sale.
If you're needing a better night's sleep, this is the time to do that. You're going to get a 27% off discount whenever you go to
helixsleep.com/whiskey.
This is fine. This is all fine. Somewhere in this shortened review, there's one more, just a practical behind-the-scenes production element. If we had, like, gloves, it's just an unexpected element. It's like, why are they handling that whiskey with gloves? And it's just going to be a little teeny tiny detail that makes people maybe give it a few more seconds to watch the video. 2, other people can wear these freaking gloves. So if we ever need pickup shots, you know, showing details in here that I didn't necessarily capture well, then some other human can grab the gloves for this episode and get this shot without me having to get pulled out of wherever I am. Gloves, maybe not the same gloves every time, but if there is something notable about a bottle, obviously they did a redesign. It is what it is. I don't think that's particularly notable. The Bill Lumsden, the Beyonce thing, the master distiller working with her to come out with her whiskey, honoring her grandfather, take her to leave it. I do think one thing that is kind of interesting, imported by Moet Hennessy USA Inc., New York, New York. That's the same people that do Louis Vuitton. So keep in mind, these are whiskey reviews that aren't necessarily for whiskey nerds. And if you want those really in-depth reviews, there's thousands. But these are for people that more likely than not are going to be more casual. And if we can meet them well in that place of giving them the information that they want and helping them make a really good decision, that's going to make them way more likely to want to go deeper. Ultimate goal, they get so deep into it, they have hundreds of bottles, they end up being your next door neighbor, and all of a sudden your access to whiskeys gets multiplied many times over because we helped the newcomers, the casuals, find their footing and get a whiskey collection that you can mooch from. You're welcome. I think we have a good beginning prototype format. So we're gonna shoot this real quick. Glenmorangie 10 is arguably the smoothest gateway scotch. Just remember that smooth is a texture, it's not a flavor. But regardless, this is an approachable single malt Scotch whiskey. It's aged in ex-bourbon barrels, so the used oak offers a smooth finish. The label will tell you it has notes of vanilla, but most whiskeys have that. I think the interesting one here is the orange, and you can totally find that layer of citrus. Should you pick it up? The magnificent bastards in our community analyzed and scored Glenmorangie 10 for you with more than 24,000 votes. 77% of whiskey lovers are drinking this neat with no ice, so keep that in mind. 19% 15% are drinking Glenmorangie 10 on the rocks. I recommend a single big ice rock so it doesn't water down the whiskey too quickly. Only 5% are putting this whiskey in a cocktail, so there's probably a better cocktail whiskey out there for you. The tribe built a word cloud of the flavors they are finding in Glenmorangie 10. Bigger words means more people are finding that specific flavor, and if you're looking for a score, 3% of whiskey lovers think Glenmorangie 10 is horrible. 14% think it's meh. 52% think it's good. 28% think it's great. 4% think it's magnificent in every way. This is considered one of the more basic and approachable scotches, but even major brands like Glenmorangie have some interesting details behind them, like Dr. Bill Lumsden, the master distiller. He recently collaborated with Beyonce for her rye whiskey. LVMH owns the brand, but you probably know them as Louis Vuitton. This is part of their Moet Hennessy portfolio. So you can tell your lady you're going out to buy a Louis Vuitton and come back home with this whiskey without any problems at all. I do think it's worth mentioning that while whiskey reviews are broken for people that are just trying to get that quick hit of relevant information so they can know whether or not it's a good decision for them, this isn't a good review format for everybody, obviously.
No, it's horrible for me. We're going through all this and we're debating like what goes into this, what doesn't. The entire time I am thinking to myself, I'm like, this is not content for me at all, which in a way violates like the rule is like make videos you want to see. Nobody else on the planet wants to see the video I want to see. A 45-minute deep dive documentary starting with the heritage of the people. Like, no.
Also, just the vibe situation, the hangout situation. That's my favorite kind of content.
Yeah.
Also, if you're looking for like a virtual drinking buddy while you have the same type of pour that the people on the screen have, that's great because it helps you explore the whiskey. But I've been in the situation where I'm standing in the store aisle and I'm looking at a bottle. I don't want to stand here for 15 minutes looking at a video. I think that's what this format's for. So, in the comments, what is an element that you think would be very important? The price point?
Yeah.
Why is that kind of tricky?
Price point is one of the worst references you can get, and you see that when you Google things anyways, because you'll Google a price and it has no relationship to what you see on store shelves.
Yeah.
Regional availability, behind-the-scenes distribution contracts, all of this goes so much into pricing.
You have the allocated whiskeys.
And do you want something to be relevant for a few years? Because there's a lot of stuff that is so hard to find for 2 or 3 years, and then it's flooding the shelves.
Yeah, the inverse of that, if you put together like a bang for your buck list, there is a time limit, like the clock's ticking whenever you come out with a bang for your buck list, because eventually people discover those pours that are punching well above their weight. Fast forward 2-3 years, you're gonna be very disappointed. It's like, hold on, this was bang for your buck, now it's $120.
Yeah.
What the hell is that?
It's not helpful at all.
Well, and to meet a large number of people where they're at.
Yeah.
I mean, you only got like 2 or 3 chances for somebody to land that really great pour. If they don't find that whiskey that's like, boom, then they're never gonna be a whiskey person. So, I think it's important for us to figure out what is going to be the most practical, useful, helpful, relevant, tight format for whiskey reviews.
Which I guess to me, that's the content that I send to people the most.
Yeah.
Is when I know like, oh, somebody's looking for this and the person I really like already made a video about it. That video is not necessarily for me.
I hadn't considered that.
Yeah.
These short things being easily shareable.
Very yes.
I do feel self-conscious if I send somebody a 20-minute video.
Oh, you know they don't watch it.
Right, and they ask me a question looking for a recommendation. It's like, they really need to have the full context to really understand. They don't.
No.
They really don't. They just want the recommendation. So if you give them like a 90-second thing, then yeah, that's way easier for them to digest, and they're not going to look at the timestamp and be like, you dick.
And I think it's totally fine to enjoy and put stuff out there that isn't exactly what you are looking for you where you're at.
Speaking of, exactly what you're looking for you where you're at. Because I've been doing this for many months, probably a couple of years, of looking at different kinds of whiskey lovers, because rule number 1 is the best whiskey is whiskey you like to drink the way you like to drink it.
Of course.
That means whiskey is pretty subjective, but that's not very helpful whenever somebody asks for a recommendation. You just say, I don't know, it's subjective. Once you look into how people specifically are enjoying whiskey, then you realize there are 5 core types of whiskey lovers. So in the near future, we're going to be getting into those 5 core types of whiskey lovers. Depending on the kind of whiskey lover you are, there are things that are going to be very helpful for you to get great recommendations, give amazing recommendations, and save a pile of money because you're getting less duds and more hits.
I mean, it's like recommending a book to somebody. The things that I read are not for my girlfriend, and the things that she reads are not for me.
Yeah.
There's some dragon porn. There's again.
Okay.
I gotta. Yeah. It's yep.
Did we just find your nickname?
We can't.
Are you?
We can't say that on YouTube. So you gotta.
You're not.
Everyone's just corn now.
Dragon corn? That's so bad.
From Nebraska, it's really bad.
Enough about Glenmorangie, am I right? Let's talk about our latest ELEANOR release. 5 years, 19 months in an Oloroso sherry cask. It's delicious, but don't just take my word for it.
Jammy with a cool dryness. This is a pastry.
I'm getting like a jelly-filled donut.
This is a freaking pastry.
It's delicious.
We didn't pay him to say that.